The great hall of the Galactic Council was quiet. Too quiet. Admiral Vextar stood at the center of the massive room, his forearms crossed behind his back. His red eyes looked at the huge screen that showed empty space where Earth used to send signals. 3 months. 3 long months of nothing. Report, said Counselor Zethron from his floating chair. The old alien's blue skin looked pale in the dim light. Around the circular hall, 11 other species sat in their special seats. Each one represented billions of lives across the galaxy. Vextar's voice was deep and proud. The human problem has been solved. Our fleet destroyed their cities. We killed their armies. We burned their ships. Earth is silent because there is nothing left to speak. A few counselors nodded. Some looked pleased. The Hegemony fleet was strong. If Vextar said the humans were gone, then they were gone. But not everyone looked happy. The silence is wrong, said senior analyst Cathara. She was from the Monitoring Guild, the species that watched and listened to every corner of space. Her long neck curved as she looked at her data pad. I have studied many dead worlds. This is different. Different how? Asked Counselor Melthos. His voice made a buzzing sound through his breathing mask. Cathara stood up. Her thin body moved like a bird as she walked to the center screen. With a wave of her hand, the display changed. It showed waves and signals from across space. Look at this, she said. This is the Krell system after we pacified it 50 years ago. See the signals? Weak, broken, but still there. Automatic distress calls. Emergency broadcasts. The dying echoes of a civilization. The screen changed again. This is the Vorth sector after the Plague Wars. Still some signals. Computers trying to contact help that would never come. Medical systems still working in empty hospitals. Another change, and this is Earth. The screen was black. Completely black. No lines, no waves, no signals at all. Nothing, Cathara said. Perfect silence. In 300 years of monitoring, I have never seen anything like this. Vextar's red eyes flashed with anger. Because our work was complete. We did not leave anything alive to make signals. That is impossible, Cathara said firmly. No attack is that perfect. There are always survivors. There are always automatic systems. There are always echoes. But from Earth there is nothing. Not even the background noise that dead electronics make. Counselor Zethron leaned forward in his chair. He was old even for his people. He had seen many wars and many dead worlds. What are you saying, analyst? Cathara looked around the room. Her eyes were bright with worry. I am saying that this silence is not natural. It is not the silence of death. It is the silence of choice. Several counselors began talking at once. Their voices echoed in the great hall. Impossible. The humans are primitive. Vextar's fleet is unstoppable. But Vextar himself was quiet now. He remembered the attack on Earth. It had gone too well, too easy. The human ships had fought hard, but not as hard as they should have. The humans had many weapons, but they had not used their best ones. It was like they were holding something back. Admiral, said Zethron. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. Tell us exactly what happened at Earth. Vextar stood straighter. His military training took over. We arrived at the Sol system with 2,000 ships. The humans had maybe 300 vessels to defend their world. They fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. He paused, thinking back to that day. Their defense was strange. They fought hard near their outer planets, but when we pushed toward Earth itself, they pulled back. They let us get close to their homeworld without a real fight. And then? Asked Counselor Yilbeth. Her green face showed interest. Then we began the bombardment. We hit their major cities first. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. All the places our spies had told us about. The humans sent out distress signals, calls for help, messages of pain and fear. Vextar's voice became quieter. But then, just before we started the second wave of attacks, everything stopped. All their signals, all their communications, everything just ended at the same time, like someone had thrown a switch. The room was very quiet now. We thought it was because our first attack had been so effective. We continued bombing for 3 more days. We used poison gas in their atmosphere. We melted their ice caps. We made sure nothing could live on the surface, and then, Cathara asked, and then we left. The world was dead. The job was done. Cathara looked at her data pad again. I have the exact time when Earth signals stopped. Down to the second. Every communication satellite, every radio station, every computer network, every emergency beacon. All at exactly the same moment. She looked up at the counselors. That does not happen by accident. That does not happen because of bombing. That happens because someone decided to make it happen. Counselor Zethron was very still. His old eyes looked at the empty screen where Earth's signals should have been. "You think they are still alive?" he said. "I think," said Kethara carefully, "that we may have made a very big mistake." Admiral Vextar's 4 hands clenched into fists. "The humans are weak. They had no real technology. They barely learned to travel between stars a few decades ago. Most species take centuries to develop faster than light travel." "Yes," said Kethara. "That is what worries me. They learned too fast. They grew too quickly, and when we came to destroy them, they died too easily." The great hall fell silent again. Outside the windows, the lights of Nexus Prime, the Council's capital world, twinkled in the darkness. Millions of beings lived there in peace, protected by the mighty fleets of the Council. But now some of them were beginning to wonder if that protection was enough. Counselor Melthos buzzed nervously. "Even if some humans survived, what could they do? They have no ships. They have no weapons that could threaten us. Their world is poisoned." "Perhaps," said Kethara. "But remember what made us notice them in the first place. They were expanding fast, too fast. They were building things in their outer system that we could not understand, mining operations in places that made no sense. Research stations in empty space." She paused. "What if those things were not what we thought they were?" Vextar shook his head. "It does not matter. I can send another fleet to make sure. We can crack their planet in half if we need to." "No," said Zethron firmly. "We will not waste more ships on a dead world. If there are survivors, they will die slowly from the poison in their air. The human problem is solved." But even as he said it, the old counselor did not sound sure. The meeting ended, and the counselors returned to their worlds. But Kethara stayed behind. She sat alone in the great hall, looking at the screen that showed nothing from Earth. She thought about the humans she had studied before the attack. They were strange creatures, not the strongest or the smartest or the fastest in the galaxy, but they had something else, something that made them dangerous. They never gave up. She remembered reading their history, how they had fought wars that lasted years, sometimes decades, how they had survived ice ages and plagues and disasters that would have killed other species, how they had always found a way to keep going, no matter how bad things got. And they were clever, very clever. They made tools and weapons and machines that worked in ways other species had never thought of. They solved problems by thinking around them instead of through them. Kethara looked at her data pad one more time. The silence from Earth was perfect. Too perfect, like a wall built to keep something in, or to keep everyone else out. She made a decision. Tomorrow, she would send her own ships to watch the Sol system, small ships that could hide and observe. She would find out what was really happening on that silent world, because deep in her heart she knew the truth. The humans were not gone. They were waiting. Meanwhile, in the depths of space far from the Council worlds, other eyes were watching. Hidden sensors that had been placed long before the war began were recording everything. Every council meeting, every fleet movement, every communication between the alien worlds. The watchers in the darkness had heard every word spoken in the Great Hall. They had seen the doubt in Kethara's eyes. They had watched Admiral Vextar's confidence begin to crack. And they were pleased. The first part of the plan was working perfectly. Far away in a place where no council ship had ever traveled, a message was being prepared. Soon it would be time for the next phase. Soon the galaxy would begin to understand what they had awakened when they attacked Earth. But not yet. For now, the silence would continue. The perfect, terrible silence that was making the Council nervous. The silence that said more than any words ever could. The silence that said, "We are still here. We remember, and we are coming." In the cold emptiness of space, Earth turned slowly in its orbit. Its surface was scarred and poisoned, just as Admiral Vextar had said. But beneath that wounded surface, in places deeper than any council scan could reach, hearts were beating. Eyes were watching, hands were building, and minds were planning revenge. The humans had learned something important from their brief time in galactic politics. They had learned that being honest and peaceful would not save them. They had learned that trying to fit in with the other species was not enough. They had learned that sometimes to survive you had to become something that others would fear. The silence from Earth continued. Perfect, complete, terrifying. And in that silence something new was being born. Commander Sarah Chen floated in the observation deck of Deep Station Omega, her face pressed against the thick glass that separated her from the cold emptiness of space. The asteroid belt around her was quiet, but not the same terrible quiet that had fallen over Earth. This was the normal quiet of space, broken only by the soft hum of life support systems and the distant rumble of mining equipment. But Sarah was not watching the asteroids. Her telescope was pointed toward the inner system, toward the blue-green dot that had once been humanity's home. "Still nothing," said Dr. James Park as he floated up beside her. His Asian features looked tired in the dim light of the observation deck. He had been monitoring Earth signals for 3 months now, hoping to find some sign that the stories were wrong, that people had survived the attack. "There has to be something," Sarah said quietly. 6 billion people don't just disappear. Through the telescope, Earth looked almost normal from this distance. The clouds still swirled white against the blue oceans. But Sarah knew better. She had watched the Hegemony fleet do its work. She had seen the bright flashes as the orbital bombardment began. She had recorded the spreading clouds of poison gas as they covered the continents. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Torres from the communication station, "I'm picking up something strange." Sarah pushed off from the window and glided over to the young officer's station. Maria Torres had been just a trainee when the war started, but 3 months of constant work had made her one of the best listeners in the outer system. "What is it?" "Hegemony Communications," Torres said. "They're talking about supply problems." Sarah felt her heart beat faster. The Hegemony was the alien empire that had led the attack on Earth. They were the ones with the big red leader, Admiral Vextar. If they were having problems, maybe that meant something good. "Put it on speaker," Sarah ordered. The alien voices filled the small communication room. The translation computer worked hard to turn their words into English. "Supply convoy Zeta 7 is 3 days late," said one voice. "Any distress signals?" asked another. "No, sir. They just disappeared. Last contact was at the edge of the Hegemony border zone." Sarah looked at Dr. Park. His eyes were wide with interest. "How many convoys is that this month?" asked the first voice. 17, sir. All different routes, all different cargo. Some were carrying weapons, others were carrying food, others were carrying fuel." There was a pause in the alien conversation. "Any pattern to the losses?" "No, sir." "That's what makes it strange. The attacks seem random, but they're happening all over our territory." The signal ended. Sarah stared at the communication equipment for a long moment. 17 supply convoys," she said slowly. "All missing." "Could be pirates," suggested Dr. Park, "or maybe technical problems." But Sarah was thinking about something else. She was thinking about the mining ships that had been scattered throughout the asteroid belt when the war began. Small ships hard to detect, perfect for hiding among the rocks. Most of them had been destroyed when the Hegemony fleet passed through on their way to Earth. Most of them. "Torres," she said, "I want you to monitor all Hegemony communications. Everything. I don't care if it's military traffic or shopping lists. Record it all." "Yes, ma'am." Sarah pushed off toward the exit. "Park, you're with me. We're going to check on our neighbors." Deep Station Omega was not alone in the asteroid belt. When humanity had first started expanding into space, they had built dozens of mining stations and research posts throughout the outer system. Most of them were small, home to maybe 50 or 100 people. They were spread out over millions of kilometers, connected only by radio and supply ships. When the war began, many of these stations had gone silent. Everyone assumed they had been destroyed or abandoned. But Sarah was starting to wonder if maybe, just maybe, some of them had just been hiding. The first station they contacted was Mining Post 7, about 2 days away by small ship. It took an hour of careful radio work before they got an answer. "Deep Station Omega, this is Mining Post 7, came a tired voice over the radio. "Commander Jackson speaking." "Good to hear from you, Sarah. Tom?" Sarah could hardly believe it. Commander Tom Jackson had been her friend for years. She had thought he was dead. "Tom, how many people do you have there?" 43 souls, Jackson replied. "We've been laying low, listening to alien radio chatter and trying not to be noticed." "What about you?" 218, Sarah said. "All mining crew and researchers. Any word from Earth?" Sarah's heart sank. "Nothing. Complete radio silence for 3 months." There was a long pause. "Sarah," Jackson said quietly, "I think there's something you need to know. We've been watching the Hegemony fleet movements, and we've been seeing some interesting things." Over the next hour, Jackson told them about the small attacks he had witnessed. Alien supply ships that had sudden accidents. Hegemony patrol boats that had technical problems at just the wrong time. Mining operations that had mysterious explosions. At first, I thought it was just bad luck, Jackson said. But it's happening too often. And always to hegemony targets. Sarah felt a strange feeling growing in her chest. Hope? Fear? She wasn't sure. Tom, how many other stations are still active? I've been in contact with 8 others. Could be more that are staying completely quiet. 8 stations. Maybe more. Sarah did quick math in her head. If each station had even 50 people, that was hundreds of humans still alive in the outer system. People who had watched Earth burn. People who had reason to be very, very angry. Tom, I want to set up a meeting. All the surviving stations. We need to talk, agreed. But Sarah, we need to be careful. The aliens have been sending scouts through the belt, looking for something. Looking for what? I think they're looking for us. The meeting took place a week later at Deep Station Omega. Representatives from 12 different outposts came, traveling in small ships that were hard to detect on alien sensors. Some came from mining stations, others from research posts, and a few came from the military observation bases that had been watching for alien activity. Sarah looked around the crowded conference room at the faces of her fellow survivors. Engineers, miners, scientists, soldiers. All of them had lost friends and family when Earth was attacked. All of them were angry, but they were also scared. Let's start with numbers, Sarah said. How many people are we talking about? The reports came in one by one. Mining Post 7 had 43 people. Research Station Delta had 67. The military listening post at Ceres had over 300 personnel. When they were done counting, the total was surprising. 2,418 people, said Dr. Park. That's more than I expected. It's not enough to fight a war, said Commander Martinez from the Ceres listening post. The Hegemony has millions of soldiers and thousands of ships. We're not going to fight a war, said Sarah. At least not the kind of war they expect. She activated the main display screen. It showed a map of the local galactic area, with the positions of Hegemony and Council worlds marked in different colors. We've been listening to their communications for months now. We've learned their language, their codes, their patrol routes. We know where they are, but they don't know where we are. Sarah pointed to several locations on the map. These are the supply routes they use to keep their fleets running. These are their mining operations. These are their communication relays. And these, she pointed to a cluster of red dots, are their military bases. So, asked Lieutenant Commander Williams from Research Station Beta. So we start making their lives difficult. We're miners and engineers. We know how to make things break at just the right time. We know how to cause accidents that look like accidents. The room was quiet. Everyone was thinking about what Sarah was suggesting. You're talking about guerrilla warfare, said Commander Martinez. I'm talking about survival, Sarah replied. They think they killed all the humans. Let them keep thinking that. But let's make sure they start to regret what they did. Dr. Park raised his hand. Sarah, even if we could hurt their supply lines, what's the point? We can't bring Earth back. We can't bring back the people who died. Sarah's face became hard. The point is that they attacked civilians. They poisoned an entire world. They committed genocide. And they're probably planning to do it again to some other species. She looked around the room. But more than that, the point is that we're still here. We're still human, and humans don't give up. Over the next few hours, they made their plans. Each station would continue to monitor alien communications and movements. They would share information through a secure network. And when opportunities presented themselves, they would strike. Not big attacks that would draw attention. Small things. A computer virus here, a mechanical failure there. Supply ships that got lost in hyperspace. Communication relays that had mysterious technical problems. The goal was not to win a military victory. The goal was to make the aliens nervous, to make them wonder what was happening, to make them start to doubt their perfect victory. Remember, Sarah told the group as they prepared to return to their stations, as far as the galaxy knows, humanity is extinct. Let's keep it that way until we're ready to prove otherwise. But even as she said it, Sarah was thinking about something else. She was thinking about Earth's perfect silence, about how quickly and completely all human communications had stopped. What if the silence was not the sound of death? What if it was the sound of preparation? Over the following weeks, the attacks began. They were small, careful and designed to look like accidents or technical failures. A Hegemony supply convoy developed engine problems and had to abandon half its cargo. A mining operation suffered a computer virus that shut down production for days. A communication relay station experienced a power failure at a critical moment. The aliens noticed, but they didn't understand what they were seeing. Each incident by itself was minor, but taken together, they painted a picture that the Hegemony military didn't want to believe. Someone was hunting them. Sarah watched the alien communications with growing satisfaction. The Hegemony commanders were arguing among themselves. Some thought the problems were just bad luck. Others suspected sabotage but couldn't figure out who was responsible. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Torres one evening, "I'm picking up something interesting from the Hegemony fleet." "What is it?" "They're recalling ships from their outer territories, pulling them back to defend their core worlds." Sarah smiled. It was the first time she had smiled since watching Earth burn. "Good," she said. "They're starting to get scared." But the best news came a month later when Dr. Park made an announcement that changed everything. "Sarah," he said, excitement clear in his voice, "I've been analyzing the pattern of alien communications near the Sol system. And? There are gaps. Small ones, but they're there. Brief moments when all the Hegemony monitoring stations go dark at the same time." Sarah felt her heart race. "What kind of gaps?" "The kind that happen when someone is jamming their signals from inside the system." Sarah stared at him. "Inside the system?" "Sarah," Dr. Park said quietly, "I think someone on Earth is still alive." The room became very quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing to listen. "That's impossible," someone whispered. But Sarah was already moving toward the communication console. If people were alive on Earth, they needed to know that humans in the outer system were still fighting. They needed to know they were not alone. She began composing a message, using codes that only humans would understand. It would be risky to send it. The aliens might intercept it, but if there was even a chance that someone was listening. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of Deep Station Omega," she said into the microphone. "If anyone is receiving this, know that humanity survives. We remember what they did to us, and we will make them pay." She sent the message toward Earth and waited. For 3 days there was no response. Then on the 4th day something incredible happened. For exactly 1 second, every Hegemony communication relay in the Sol system went silent at the same time. 1 second of perfect coordinated silence. A silence that said, "We hear you. We are ready, and soon it will be time." Admiral Vextar stood in the command center of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds, staring at reports that made no sense. His 4 red eyes scanned the datapad again, hoping the numbers would change. They did not. "Explain this to me again," he said to his aide, Commander Zelmoth. The younger Hegemony officer's skin had turned pale blue with nervousness. "Sir, in the last 2 months we have lost 47 supply convoys. 6 mining operations have suffered major accidents, and 12 communication relays have experienced technical failures." "Technical failures," Vextar repeated slowly. "Yes, sir. The engineering reports all say the same thing. Equipment malfunctions, computer errors, power system overloads." Vextar's primary hands clenched into fists. 47 convoys, 6 mining operations, 12 relays. All in 2 months, right? Yes, sir. "And you believe this is all bad luck?" Commander Zelmoth looked even more nervous. "Sir, our intelligence reports show no organized resistance. No enemy fleets. No hostile territory. The humans are dead. The other council species are not involved. There is no one left to blame." But that was exactly what worried Admiral Vextar. In his 30 years of military service, he had never seen a pattern of failures like this. Equipment broke, yes. Accidents happened, certainly. But not like this. Not so many, so often, so perfectly timed to cause maximum damage. "Show me the locations," he ordered. The main display screen lit up with a map of Hegemony space. Red dots marked where the incidents had occurred. Vextar studied the pattern carefully. The attacks were everywhere. No single location was being targeted more than others, but they were all hitting the same types of targets: supply lines, mining operations, and communication systems. The things that kept the Hegemony military machine running? "Sir," said another officer from the communication station, "we're receiving reports from the outer colonies. They're requesting additional security." "What kind of reports?" "Mining crews are refusing to work night shifts. Transport pilots are demanding escort ships. Colony governors are asking for more military patrols. Vextar felt a cold feeling in his stomach. They're scared. It appears so, sir. This was bad. Very bad. The hegemony ruled through strength and fear. If their own people were becoming afraid, if they were starting to doubt the military's ability to protect them, then the Empire itself was in danger. Double the patrols, Vextar ordered. I want security teams on every supply convoy. I want guards on every mining platform. I want someone watching every communication relay. Yes, sir. But even as he gave the orders, Vextar knew they would not be enough. Whatever was causing these problems was smart, patient, and very good at staying hidden. The thought that kept bothering him was simple. What if the humans were not really dead? He had reported their extinction to the Galactic Council. He had staked his reputation on it. If he was wrong, if some humans had survived, then his career was over. Worse, the Council might decide that the hegemony was not capable of handling difficult situations. Commander Zelmoth, he said quietly. Yes, sir? I want you to personally investigate the next incident. Whatever happens, wherever it happens, you go there immediately. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. The chance to find out came sooner than expected. 3 days later, mining platform Theta 9, located in a remote asteroid field, stopped responding to communications. The platform produced rare metals that were essential for building starship engines. Its loss would be a serious problem. Commander Zelmoth took a fast scout ship and reached the platform within hours. What he found there changed everything. The mining platform was still there, floating among the asteroids as it should be. But it was completely dead. No power, no life support, no communications. The 300 workers who had been stationed there were gone. Not dead. Gone. Sir, reported Lieutenant Yexum, the security officer who had come with Zelmoth. I've checked the escape pods. They are all still here. All of them? Yes, sir. No one used them to leave the platform. Zelmoth felt his skin turn cold. Then where did everyone go? They searched the platform for hours. The living quarters were empty, but there were no signs of struggle. The work areas were abandoned, but the tools were neatly put away as if the workers had just finished their shifts. The control room was dark, but the computers had been properly shut down. It was as if 300 people had simply decided to disappear. Lieutenant, Zelmoth said slowly, check the mining records. How much ore did they produce this month? It took an hour to get the computers working again. When the data finally appeared, Zelmoth stared at it in disbelief. Sir, said Lieutenant Yexum, according to these records, they mined twice as much ore as usual this month. Where is it? Gone, sir. The storage bays are empty. Zelmoth looked around the empty control room. Someone had been here. Someone had taken the workers, taken the ore, and done it so quietly that no distress signals had been sent. But who? Sir, said Yexum nervously. There's something else. I found this in the main computer. He handed Zelmoth a datapad. On the screen was a simple message in Hegemony script. You should have left us alone. Zelmoth felt his blood turn to ice. The message was written in perfect Hegemony language with no translation errors. Whoever had written it spoke their language fluently. Send a priority message to Admiral Vextar, Zelmoth ordered. Tell him we have a problem. A big problem. When Admiral Vextar received the report, he immediately called for a secure conference with the other Hegemony commanders. The meeting took place on his flagship, in a room that was protected against all forms of electronic surveillance. Gentlemen, Vextar said to the 5 other admirals, we have a situation. He told them about the mining platform, about the missing workers, about the message. When he was finished, the room was quiet for a long time. It could be pirates, suggested Admiral Koltar. Pirates do not leave messages in our language, Vextar replied. Pirates do not make people disappear without a trace. Then who? Asked Admiral Morgoth. Vextar took a deep breath. I think the humans are still alive. The other admirals looked at each other with shock. Impossible, said Koltar. We destroyed their world. We saw their cities burn. We saw their surface burn, Vextar corrected. But what if they were not all on the surface? Admiral Jexlin, the oldest of the group, leaned forward. You think they went underground? I think, said Vextar carefully, that we may have underestimated them. The room fell silent again. Finally, Admiral Morgoth spoke. If you are right, if some humans survived, what are they doing now? They are learning, Vextar said. Learning our language, our technology, our weaknesses. And they are preparing for something. They're preparing for what? Revenge. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was having its own problems. Senior analyst Kithara sat in her office on Nexus Prime, reviewing reports from across Council space. What she was reading made her feel sick. A fusion power plant on the Kithran homeworld had suffered a catastrophic meltdown. The accident should have been impossible with their safety systems, but somehow it had happened anyway. The explosion had killed thousands of people and contaminated a large area. The Zelani Military Academy's computer network had been infected with a virus that destroyed years of training records and tactical data. Before the system crashed completely, it had displayed images on every screen. Pictures of human cities burning, human ships exploding, human children dying. The Kethron food production facility had experienced a series of accidents that contaminated their entire grain harvest. Millions of people would need emergency food supplies to survive the year. Each incident by itself could be explained as bad luck or technical failure. But taken together, they formed a pattern that terrified Kethara. Someone was systematically attacking the Council species. Someone who knew exactly how to hurt them where it would cause the most damage. Someone who understood their technology well enough to make their safety systems fail. Kethara activated her personal communication system and sent an urgent message to Counselor Zethran. We need to meet, immediately. The meeting took place in Zethran's private office, far from the Great Council Hall. The old counselor looked even more tired than usual. You have read the reports? Kethara asked. I have read them, Zethran replied. I do not understand them. I think I do, Kethara said quietly. We are under attack. By whom? Kethara looked directly at the old counselor. By the species we thought we had destroyed. Zethran was quiet for a long moment. The humans, yes, but that is impossible. Vextar assured us they were all dead. Vextar was wrong. Or perhaps the humans let him think he was right. Zethran stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the city lights of Nexus Prime stretched to the horizon. Millions of beings lived there in peace, protected by the power of the Council. If you are correct, he said slowly, then we are in great danger. We are, Kethara agreed. Because if the humans are still alive, if they have been watching us and learning about us for months, then they know everything about our worlds, our technology, our weaknesses. What do you suggest we do? Kethara thought carefully before answering. We need to warn the other council members. We need to increase security on all vital installations, and we need to find out exactly how many humans are still alive. And if there are many of them, then, said Kethara grimly, we need to prepare for war. A different kind of war than we have ever fought before. But it was already too late for preparations. That night, as Counselor Zethran slept in his secure apartment, every electronic device in his home activated at once. Lights flashed, alarms sounded, communication systems screeched with static. The noise was overwhelming, terrifying. When the security guards arrived, they found Zethran sitting on his bed staring at his wall screen. The screen showed a simple message in perfect Council standard script. We know where you live. We know where you work. We know where your children go to school. You took our world. Now we will take everything from you. The message stayed on the screen for exactly 1 minute, then disappeared. When the technical teams tried to trace its source, they found nothing. No signal, no transmission, no evidence that the message had ever existed, except for the memory of the words, burned into the mind of every being who had seen them. The next morning, similar messages appeared on screens across the council worlds. In government buildings, military bases, private homes. Always the same message, always untraceable, always terrifying. The message was clear. The humans were still alive. They were angry. And they were just getting started. In the Great Council Hall, emergency sessions were called. Military commanders were summoned. Defense systems were activated. But deep down, every council member knew the truth. They had awakened something that should have been left alone. They had tried to destroy a species that refused to die quietly. Now they would learn what happened when you made that kind of mistake. The price of their arrogance was coming due, and the humans were ready to collect. The transmission began at exactly 12K Galactic Standard Time. Every communication device in Council space received it at the same moment. Military command centers, civilian broadcasting stations, personal communication units, emergency services, even the entertainment networks that children watched. The signal was impossibly strong, bypassing every security system, overriding every encryption code, silencing every other transmission in the galaxy. For the first time in 6 months, a human voice spoke to the stars. Commander Sarah Chen's face appeared on screens across 100 worlds. She looked different from the mining station officer she had been before the war. Her face was thinner, harder, marked by months of living in hiding. But her eyes burned with a fire that made viewers across the galaxy step back from their screens. "My name is Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Resistance," she said. Her voice was calm, controlled, but underneath it was something that made even the bravest alien warriors feel afraid. 6 months ago, you attacked our world. You murdered our families. You poisoned our skies and burned our cities. You thought you had destroyed us. She paused, and her smile was terrible to see. You were wrong. In the Great Council Hall on Nexus Prime, every screen showed Sarah's face. Counselor Zethran sat frozen in his chair, his old hands gripping the armrests. Around him, the other council members watched in horror as their perfect victory was revealed to be a lie. "You see," Sarah continued, "humanity has a talent that you never understood. We are very good at surviving. We are very good at planning. And we are very, very good at learning from our enemies." Admiral Vextar watched from his flagship, his 4 hands clenched into fists. How was this possible? His fleet had destroyed everything on Earth's surface. He had seen it with his own eyes. "While your ships burned our cities, we were watching. We were recording. We were learning everything about your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. Every ship in your fleet, every weapon you used, every communication you sent. We saw it all." Sarah's image looked directly at the camera, and across the galaxy, beings felt as if she was looking directly at them. "You thought we were primitive. You thought we were weak. You thought we could not threaten your mighty empire. Let me show you how wrong you were." The image changed. Instead of Sarah's face, the screens now showed a map of Hegemony space. Red dots marked the locations of every military base, every supply depot, every important installation in their territory. "This is your empire, Admiral Vextar. These are your bases, your supply lines, your communication networks. Every single one has been mapped, studied, and marked for destruction." Vextar's face turned pale. The map was perfect. It showed installations that were supposed to be secret, supply routes that were classified, communication hubs that did not officially exist. How could the humans know so much? The map changed again, now showing council space. Every member world was clearly marked, along with their defense systems, their vital industries, their population centers. "This is your territory, Galactic Council. Every world, every city, every important target. We know where you live. We know where you work. We know where your children sleep at night." In the council hall, several members began to panic. Counselor Yilbeth started to leave her seat, but security guards motioned for her to stay. There was nowhere to run. "For 6 months you have been experiencing what you called technical difficulties and unfortunate accidents. Supply convoys disappearing, mining operations failing, computer systems crashing. You thought it was bad luck." Sarah's smile returned, cold and sharp. "It was not luck. It was us. We have been inside your system since the day after you attacked Earth. We have been watching your every move, listening to your every word, learning your every secret." The transmission showed footage that made the council members gasp in terror. Videos taken inside their own military bases, recordings of their private conversations, documents from their most secure computers. Every attack on your infrastructure, every failure of your systems, every accident that has cost you ships and supplies, that was human hands at work. "We have been fighting a war against you for 6 months and you never even knew it was happening." Admiral Vextar activated his personal communication system and began shouting orders to his fleet. "Find the source of this transmission. Trace the signal. I want every human position located and destroyed." But Sarah's voice continued as if she could hear his commands. "You are wondering how we survived your attack. You are wondering where we are hiding. You are wondering how many of us are left. Let me answer those questions. The image changed again. This time it showed Earth itself, but not the poisoned wasteland that Admiral Vexitar had left behind. The view was from underground, in vast caverns lit by artificial suns. Cities stretched out as far as the eye could see, filled with humans going about their daily lives. When we first detected your surveillance of our world, we began to prepare. We dug deep into the Earth, deeper than your sensors could reach. We built cities in the ocean depths and the planet's core, in places you never thought to look. The camera moved through the underground cities, showing factories, schools, military bases, research laboratories. Millions of people were visible, all of them very much alive. We moved our entire civilization underground. Not just the government and military, but everyone. 6 billion people, relocated and hidden, while you watched our empty surface cities. Admiral Vexitar felt sick. His great victory, his perfect conquest, had been a lie. He had destroyed empty buildings while the real human civilization hid beneath his feet. But that is not all, Sarah continued. We also sent our people to the stars. Mining stations, research posts, exploration ships, thousands of small outposts scattered across the galaxy. When you attacked Earth, you left them all alone. That was your second mistake. The screen showed images from Deep Station Omega and dozens of other human outposts. Each one was busy with activity, filled with people working on projects that looked very advanced and very dangerous. For 6 months, these outposts have been your nightmare. Every supply convoy you lost, every base that suffered accidents, every system that mysteriously failed. That was us. We have been learning your technology, stealing your resources, and positioning ourselves throughout your territory. In the council hall, Senior Analyst Cathara felt her heart sink. She had been right about the silence being wrong, but even she had not imagined anything like this. You want to know where we are? Sarah asked. We are everywhere, in your computer networks, in your supply chains, in your communication systems. Some of us are probably in the same room with you right now. Several council members looked around nervously at their guards and assistants. Could any of them be human spies? How would they know? But here is what you really want to know, Sarah said, and her voice became deadly serious. What are we going to do about it? The transmission showed images of weapons unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, massive ships being built in hidden facilities, advanced technology that combined the best of human engineering with stolen alien science, armies of soldiers training for a war unlike any that had ever been fought. We have spent 6 months studying you. We know exactly how each of your species thinks, how you fight, how you can be beaten. We have designed weapons specifically to counter your advantages. We have created tactics that will turn your strengths into weaknesses. Admiral Vexitar was frantically trying to contact his fleet commanders, but his communications were being jammed. Every military frequency was blocked by interference that his technicians could not overcome. Weapons that will make your numbers meaningless. The Catharan trust in their energy shields and advanced technology. We have developed attacks that will turn their own systems against them. The Zilani depend on their speed and coordination. We know how to make them slow and confused. Each council species was mentioned, each one shown examples of weapons and tactics designed specifically to defeat them. It was clear that the humans had studied their enemies with scientific precision. Every member of the Galactic Council will face weapons and strategies created just for them. You will fight an enemy that knows everything about you while you know nothing about us. The transmission paused and Sarah's face reappeared. She looked directly at the camera again and her voice became quiet, personal. You could have been our friends. When we first developed faster than light travel, when we first reached out to the galaxy, we came in peace. We wanted to learn, to trade, to be part of the galactic community. Her expression hardened. You responded by demanding that we surrender our independence, give up our colonies, and submit to your authority. When we refused, you decided to exterminate us. The screen showed footage from the attack on Earth. Human cities burning, ships exploding, children dying. But now the council members knew that it was all staged, all planned to make the aliens think they had won. You taught us a valuable lesson that day. You taught us that in this galaxy, being peaceful makes you a target. You taught us that being reasonable makes you weak. You taught us that to survive, we must become something you will fear. Sarah's image was replaced by scenes of massive human fleets preparing for battle. Ships by the thousands, all armed with weapons that the aliens had never seen before. So we became what you made us. We became your nightmare. We became the thing that will hunt you in the darkness. We became the species that will make you regret the day you decided to attack Earth. The transmission began to fade, but Sarah's voice continued. This is our final warning to the Galactic Council and all its member species. You have 72 hours to evacuate your core worlds. After that, we will stop being merciful. After that, we will show you what happens when you cross the line with humanity. The signal strength increased one final time, and Sarah's voice echoed from every speaker in council space. We are no longer the peaceful species you attacked. We are something new. Something you created with your arrogance and cruelty. We are the human resistance, and we will have our revenge. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, screens went dark. Communication systems returned to normal. But nothing would ever be the same. In the Great Council Hall, the silence was broken by the sound of Councillor Melthos activating his emergency beacon. Within minutes, alarms were sounding on every council world. Military fleets were being recalled. Evacuation plans were being activated. But they all knew it was too late. The humans were no longer hiding. They were no longer running. They were no longer the peaceful species that had once asked to join the galactic community. They had become something else, something that the galaxy had never seen before, something that would make the Council pay for their mistake. Admiral Vextar stood alone on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the empty screens. His perfect victory had become a perfect disaster. He had not destroyed humanity. He had forged it into the most dangerous weapon the galaxy had ever known. And now that weapon was pointed directly at him. The countdown had begun. 72 hours until the real war started. 72 hours until the galaxy learned what happened when you pushed humanity too far. The humans had been silent for 6 months, letting their enemies think they had won. Now it was time to make some noise. 71 hours and 59 minutes remained when the second transmission began. This time, the signal came from deep beneath Earth's scarred surface, from places so far underground that even the planet's core seemed close. The transmission was stronger than the first, overriding not just communication systems but also ship computers, navigation systems, and even the simple electronics that controlled lights and doors. Every being in council space stopped what they were doing and listened. This is General Marcus Torres, Supreme Commander of the Human Defense Force. The voice was different from Commander Chen's. Older, harder, carrying the weight of authority earned through years of war. I speak to you from the command center of New Geneva, 100 kilometers beneath the surface of what you thought was a dead world. The image that appeared on screens across the galaxy showed a vast underground complex that stretched beyond the horizon. Military bases, weapons factories, training grounds, and research laboratories filled caverns larger than entire cities. Millions of people moved through the complex with the precision of a military machine. Some of you still doubt that humanity survived your attack. Some of you think Commander Chen's message was a trick, a desperate bluff from a few survivors. Let me show you exactly how wrong you are. The camera moved through the underground city, revealing the true scope of human preparation. Assembly lines produced weapons by the thousands. Training centers prepared soldiers for every type of combat. Computer centers processed intelligence gathered from across the galaxy. This is level 50 of New Geneva. There are 200 levels below this one, and New Geneva is just one of 47 cities we built under Earth's surface. Each city houses between 10 and 50 million people. Do the math. Admiral Vexitar, watching from his flagship, felt his blood turn to ice. If the human was telling the truth, then Earth's underground held more than 2 billion people. Not the scattered survivors he had imagined, but an entire civilization that had been preparing for war. But numbers are not what should scare you, General Torres continued. What should scare you is what we have been doing with our time. The screen showed laboratories where human scientists worked alongside captured alien technology. In one room, researchers were dissecting hegemony weapons. In another, they were reverse engineering Catheran energy shields. A third lab was filled with computers running simulations of Council fleet movements. 6 months ago, your attack taught us everything we needed to know about your military capabilities. We recorded every weapon you used, every tactic you employed, every weakness you revealed. We have had half a year to study your technology and develop counters for it. The image changed to show testing grounds where new weapons were being evaluated. Energy beams that could cut through Hegemony armor like paper. Missiles that could track Zilani ships no matter how fast they moved. Computer viruses designed specifically to crash Catharan defense systems. Every species in the Council has different strengths and weaknesses. We have created weapons tailored specifically for each of you. Your advantages mean nothing to us now. In the Council Hall on Nexus Prime, emergency evacuation procedures were already underway. But Councillor Zethron remained at his post, knowing that someone had to hear this message and understand what humanity had become. You are wondering why we are telling you this, General Torres said, as if reading the old councillor's mind. You are wondering why we would reveal our capabilities instead of simply attacking. The answer is simple. Because we want you to understand the choice you are about to make. The screen showed a star map of the galaxy, with council worlds marked in blue and human positions marked in red. There were far more red dots than anyone had expected, scattered throughout space in a pattern that surrounded every major alien population center. This is the current situation. Our forces are already in position around every council world, every military base, every important installation in your territory. We have been moving into these positions for months while you thought we were dead. Admiral Vextar activated his ship's sensors and began scanning space around his position. Within minutes, his officers reported contacts that should not have been there. Ships hiding behind asteroids, in nebulas, in the shadows of planets. Dozens of them, all previously undetected. How many ships do you have? He whispered, though he knew no one could hear him. General Torres answered anyway. Enough. Every council fleet is currently surrounded. Every council world is under surveillance. Every council leader is being watched. We know where you are, what you are doing, and what you are planning to do next. The transmission showed real-time footage from inside council military bases, government buildings, and private residences. The message was clear. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, nowhere to be safe from human observation. But here is what you need to understand, General Torres continued, and his voice became deadly serious. We do not want to destroy you. Destroying you would be easy. We could have done it months ago. Instead, we want you to learn. The screen showed images of Earth before the attack. Cities full of life, spaceports busy with trade, children playing in parks under blue skies. Then it showed Earth after the bombardment. Poisoned wastelands, burning forests, empty cities choked with toxic gas. You did this because we refused to surrender our independence. You committed genocide because we would not submit to your authority. You murdered billions of innocent people because we dared to say no to you. The camera moved through the underground cities again, but this time it focused on memorial walls covered with billions of names. The names of everyone who had died in the attack. Families destroyed, children killed, entire communities wiped out. Every person in these underground cities has lost someone. Parents, children, friends, lovers. We all carry the memory of that day when your ships came to murder our world. General Torres appeared on screen now. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice carried the authority of absolute command. You created us, he said simply. Before your attack, humanity was a peaceful species. We explored, we learned, we tried to make friends. We had no interest in conquest or empire. We just wanted to be left alone to grow and discover. His expression hardened. You changed that. You taught us that in this galaxy. Being peaceful makes you a target. You showed us that to survive, we must become predators. You forced us to become something that could hunt you in the darkness and make you afraid. The screen showed footage of human military training. Soldiers learning to fight in zero gravity. Pilots mastering spacecraft designed for stealth and speed. Engineers building weapons that could crack planets, so we learned. We adapted. We became what we needed to become to survive. And now we are something that has never existed before in this galaxy. A species with nothing left to lose and the power to take everything away from you. Admiral Vextar was receiving reports from across Hegemony space. His commanders were finding human forces everywhere. Not just ships, but entire battle fleets that had somehow moved into position without being detected. The scope of the human operation was beyond anything he had imagined possible. You have a choice to make, General Torres said. You can continue to fight us and we will show you what total war really means. We will hunt down every ship in your fleets. We will crack every world in your territories. We will make you extinct, just as you tried to make us extinct. The screen showed simulations of what a full human attack would look like. Council fleets being destroyed in minutes. Planetary defense systems failing as human viruses corrupted their computers. Entire civilizations going dark as human weapons struck their homeworlds. Or, Torres continued, you can choose to learn from your mistake. The tone of his voice changed, becoming less threatening but no less serious. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want to build an empire. We want the same thing we wanted 6 months ago, to be left alone to live our lives in peace. The screen showed plans for human colonies on distant worlds, far from Council space. Research stations, farming communities, cities built around learning and exploration rather than war. If you withdraw from our territory, if you leave us alone, if you promise never again to threaten our people, then we will go our separate ways. You can keep your council, your territories, your way of life. We will build our own civilization far from yours. Several council members looked hopeful at this offer. Perhaps there was a way out of this crisis that did not end in total destruction. But General Torres was not finished. However, if you choose to continue this war, you should understand what that choice means. We are no longer the species you attacked 6 months ago. We have become something new. Something designed specifically to destroy you. The camera moved through weapons testing facilities where devices of unimaginable destructive power were being prepared. Planet crackers that could split worlds apart. Star killers that could make suns explode. Fleet destroyers that could wipe out entire armadas in seconds. We have the power to make your species extinct. All of your species. We can do it quickly or slowly, cleanly or painfully. We can destroy your worlds or just make them uninhabitable. We can kill your soldiers or make them wish they were dead. The transmission showed footage of human special forces already infiltrated into Council territory. Commandos who could move unseen through alien cities. Saboteurs who could destroy vital installations without being detected. Assassins who could eliminate any target the military chose. We are inside your defenses. We are among your people. We are in your computer systems, your communication networks, your supply chains. We have had 6 months to prepare for this war, and we are ready for it to begin. General Torres faced the camera directly, and his eyes seemed to look into the soul of every being watching. This is your final warning. You have 72 hours to make your choice. Withdraw your fleets from human space. Evacuate your border worlds. Announce to the galaxy that humanity is to be left alone forever. He paused, or face the consequences of crossing the line with a species that has nothing left to lose and everything to gain from your destruction. The transmission began to fade, but Torres's voice continued. We were peaceful once. You killed that peace. We were trusting once. You killed that trust. We were merciful once. You killed that mercy. All that is left now is what you made us. The most dangerous predator this galaxy has ever seen. The final image was of Earth from space. The poisoned surface still showed the scars of the Hegemony attack, but now massive launch bays were opening across the planet. Ships beyond counting began emerging from underground hangars, forming fleets that stretched from horizon to horizon. The countdown begins now, General Torres said. 72 hours. After that, we stop being patient. After that, you will learn what it means to be hunted by humanity. The transmission ended. Across council space, emergency meetings were called. Military commanders argued about strategy. Political leaders debated surrender versus resistance. Scientists tried to calculate whether their defenses could stop the human onslaught. But deep down they all knew the truth. They had awakened something that should have been left sleeping. They had tried to destroy a species that refused to die quietly. They had created their own nemesis and given it 6 months to prepare for revenge. The humans were no longer hiding. The humans were no longer running. The humans were coming, and there was nowhere in the galaxy to hide from what they had become. In the depths of space, Earth's transmitters fell silent once more. But this time the silence didn't mean defeat. It meant the hunt had begun.